Good afternoon and welcome to Politics in the Pulpit here on your hometown station, AM 1220 and 98.1 FM here in the beautiful Santa Clarita Valley. This is your holy host, the Bishop of Santa Clarita, for another opportunity to talk about the two things we're not supposed to talk about in public, religion and politics. And yes, they do indeed mix. Well, it is indeed a pleasure to be back with you live today. Last week, of course, some of you were texting and calling saying, "Oh no, you're talking about Kamala Harris before the election." I know it was a repeat, folks. But I'm back in the show live, and we're excited to have Daniel Mercuri for governor running here in California. We had Daniel back in March of this year, I believe it was. He was in studio today. He'll be calling in and just giving us an update as to how things are going on the campaign trail. So we'll be hearing from Daniel Mercuri at the bottom of the hour. A couple of quick shameless plugs here. Our Stars and Stripes concert with the Santa Clarita Valley Concert Band is just around the corner. It'll be at the Freedom's Way Baptist Church. Check us out online, freedomswaybaptistchurch.org. And you can see right there on the front page the Stars and Stripes concert. June 28th at 5 p.m. This is a free event. Encourage you to come out and kind of get into the patriotic mood of July 4th, which is around the corner as well, believe it or not. America will be celebrating 249 years. It's a remarkable thing. And then, not to be outdone by the Stars and Stripes concert, our church does something called Red, White, and Blue Sunday, where we basically highlight our nation's biblical founding by predominantly Bible-believing men who, of course, were the founding fathers of our nation. And we like to highlight that every year at our church, usually the Sunday right before Independence Day. And this year our guest is Oscar Martinez, who is running for LA County Sheriff. He's a wonderful gentleman. Had the pleasure of meeting him several times. And for those of you that are not familiar with our church, I encourage you to come on out and meet Oscar Martinez and then have lunch with us on the ground afterward. Also, don't forget Politics and the Pulpit is on Rumble as well. Please like and share that out with as many people as you can. Again, you'll find my picture there, Politics in the Pulpit. There's other choices there as well, but you'll have to look for my picture, Politics in the Pulpit, and then check us out on Rumble, like it, and share it if you would. The breaking news today that I just found is a federal judge, another federal judge, folks, has blocked deportation of the Colorado terrorist's wife and kids. Just a few days ago, obviously, I believe it was Sunday, there was a terrorist who, a Muslim terrorist, by the way, who came in through Biden's slippery fingers, and he firebombed a location there in Boulder, Colorado, injured some Jewish protesters, and so on and so forth. And then we found out that the current administration, was going to deport both he and his family, and a Colorado federal judge, Gordon Gallagher, a Biden appointee, no surprise there, has issued an order blocking the Trump administration from deporting the wife and 5 children of Boulder terror suspect Mohammed Soleiman. Now, I heard this morning that one of the kids actually does love the country and really has no desire to leave the country, and hopefully they can kind of fetter that out right there and figure out which of the kids and how much the wife really loves the country. But hopefully the 10th Court, the 10th Circuit Court, will overturn this ruling. Again, we don't need terrorists and their family members in this country. At least I hope you all agree with me out there. The other thing that was interesting in terms of the news today was the FBI director, Kash Patel, confirms arrest of a Chinese national who smuggled a dangerous biological pathogen into the U.S. Now, this is important because if you remember back in 2020, China might or may not have had something to do with the pandemic. But Director Kash Patel has just revealed that the FBI arrested a Chinese national who smuggled a dangerous pathogen into the U.S. Young Yin, who worked at the University of Michigan, wanted to research the pathogen, which is, quote, a disease of wheat, barley, maize, and rice, causing significant health issues in both humans and livestock. It is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. And then Patel went on to say this, quote, I can confirm that the FBI arrested a Chinese national within the United States who allegedly smuggled a dangerous biological pathogen into this country. The individual is alleged to have smuggled a dangerous fungus, I can't pronounce the fungus name, which is an agroterrorism agent, into the U.S. to research at the University of Michigan where this individual works. This fungus can cause a disease called head blight, a disease of wheat, barley, causing significant health issues in both humans and livestock. It is responsible for billions of dollars in economic losses worldwide each year. And it goes on to say that the person's boyfriend, again, another Chinese name that I cannot pronounce, also charged in the complaint, works at a Chinese university where he conducts research on the same pathogen. Now, I'm really glad that we have some individuals that within our FBI that can do this rather quickly. But I'm kind of pathogened out here in the United States of America. I mean, we went through 2.5, 3 years of the China virus, the Wuhan virus, and now we've got the FBI intercepting this individual who tried to come into the country, or at least try to bring in research for this pathogen that would have caused not only untold billions of dollars in agriculture, but also lives as well. Because obviously, I don't know about you, but we all kind of survive off of agriculture. It's kind of important. You kind of mess around with our agriculture, then that basically takes care of the rest of society because we rely on it greatly. I don't know if you've noticed, but Trump derangement syndrome is a definite, real phenomenon. How many of you remember Joe Walsh? Joe Walsh was a Republican that was very prominent after the Tea Parties, and he was a never-Trumper that came out as a never-Trumper, especially in the middle of Trump's first administration, stayed a Republican, but just recently, today I think, just came out and said that he is leaving the Republican Party to become a leftist Democrat who supports socialism over freedom, all because he hates Trump. Folks, I honestly believe, and I mean this with all sincerity, there is something that Trump does to people. Now, I'm not saying it's spiritual or truly medical, but Trump does do something to people. Here is what Joe Walsh says on his X post today. He says, quote, I'm a freedom-loving conservative. I left the Republican Party 5 years ago. Today, I'm doing something I never thought I'd do. I'm formally joining the Democratic Party, and here's why. And of course, I've got no interest to know why. Because the Democratic Party today is in shambles. Absolute shambles. And I don't even know why Joe Walsh, with as much as he probably should know as a conservative, why he would ever join a party that would allow biological men to play sports against biological women and also allow biological men to change in the same locker rooms as your daughters. So, folks, Joe Walsh needs to check his head because obviously there's something going on with him. Now, in terms of Joe Walsh, the other story that is making a lot of headway today is Corinne Jean-Pierre. She is, quote, leaving the Democrat Party as outlined in her new book, Independent. Now, I find this interesting because the name of her book, which is called Independent, quote, a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines. This book supposedly outlines her departure from the party, which ironically she helped to destroy by her own deceptions. Now, I just, by way of reminder here, I got a clip I want you guys to listen to. It's about a minute or so that just reminds you of some of the deceptions of all of these Democratic Party leaders, reminding us just how sharp and how on point Joe Biden was leading up to the 2024 November election. Listen to this clip.
I'm looking for it.
Oh, you don't have it, Mike?
No, hold on.
I think it's just a 1 minute clip, maybe even less than that. And then there's also a 2 minute clip. But
Okay. So 1 minute, you said?
I think so.
Try this one here.
Yeah, let's try it. Who knows?
Democrats in unison were on message, pushing the narrative that Joe is fit, as sharp as a tack, never been better.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
This guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
This is a man that's on his game.
President Biden is absolutely fit.
There's not a problem.
He's sharp, he's fit, he's always answering questions.
He is on the ball. He was sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
He is sharp. He is on top of things.
There's no doubt in my mind that the president is mentally fit for office.
Biden has proven himself to have a strong memory.
He's completely mentally.
He's at the top of his game.
All right, one of the individuals that were talking there was, in fact, Corinne Jean-Pierre, who basically says that Biden was fit and is at the top of his game. This same Corinne Jean-Pierre is leaving the Democratic Party. She tells her story of feeling disillusioned with Democratic politics after serving in 2 Democratic administrations and calls for, quote, thinking outside the party lines. Now, here's what's interesting. For 2.5 years as the White House spokesperson, she lied and deceived not only the journalist pool, but the American public concerning Joe Biden's mental health, decline, and incompetency. She was in the room with Biden. She observed Biden. And all of these other people in that clip, from Chuck Schumer to Dan Goldman to Corinne Pierre herself, all deceived the American people. Jake Tapper, of course, has written a book about it, which, of course, he's getting all kinds of airplay, as well as his co-author. And he knew about it too, folks. And here's what's interesting. Why would anybody trust the modern Democratic Party / politician anymore? They were complicit in one of, if not the greatest, deceptions in political history. I mean, it's huge, folks. They propped up a weekend at Bernie's president for 4 years. And then someone got the bright idea of having an early debate, a June debate. And I'm sure the powers that be, the power struggles that be within the administration probably thought, well, if Biden does well enough, we can kind of get him across the finish line. If he doesn't do well enough, then we'll annex all the normal democratic processes and just shove somebody in there, namely Kamala Harris, who, of course, did what she did. Now, here's something that's very interesting. Trump has done something that no other Republican has been able to do, and that is to break the Democratic Party. I mean, it's a remarkable thing to think about. In fact, by breaking the Dems, Trump has completely reshaped the Republican Party by broadening its coalition and its influence. How long have you heard Republican operatives talk about how we want to broaden our party? We have a, quote, broad tent. And how many times have you heard Democrats saying that the Republicans are the party of old white guys? But now that is all completely reversed. The Democrats are imploding. Young males are rushing to the Republican side. Now, the Democrats still have the college-educated females, and that's because the Democratic Party tends to be more emotional. So therefore, women are going to gravitate towards that because by design, take it up with the Lord here, folks, women tend to be more emotional than men. That's just the way it is. And they definitely have the white college-educated women. But Trump has done something that no Republican president has been able to do in this century, in fact, for the last 100 years. And that is to not only reshape the Republican Party, but he has also broadened its coalition and its influence. I want you to just listen to 1 minute of this clip from CNN outlining just how far in the toilet the Democrats are and how favorable the Republicans are.
First 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error, plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy?
When CNN tells you that, you know things are not going really well for the Democrats. And there's more to that clip. You should watch it on YouTube. It's about 3 minutes of gold. I think if you're a good conservative, you might actually beam at some of the things that CNN is finally coming out with. Well, when we come back here on Politics in the Pulpit, we're going to talk to Daniel Mercuri, who is, of course, running for governor here of the state of California. We'll get an update of his campaign when we return here on Politics in the Pulpit on your hometown station. All right, we're back here live on Politics in the Pulpit. This is your holy host. And we have on the line Daniel Mercuri for California governor. We had the pleasure of having Daniel in studio with us a few months ago, and just wanted to kind of get an update as to what's going on in the Mercuri campaign. So, Danny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing blessed today. Thank you so much, Dr. Jerry, for having me on again, and I always appreciate being able to talk to your audience.
I always tell people that if you don't like the weather in Southern California, just wait an hour or two. Did you get any rain yesterday?
We did, which is actually great. My kids were shocked that it went from raining to suddenly sunny towards the end of the day, but that's always the beautiful thing about California. You just have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, it was so interesting. We had thunder and lightning up at our house. It was so bad that we had no electricity for about 4.5 hours, which is fine. I guess it was kind of neat to live like it was 1905.
Right?
Yeah, I just did not want to take out my generator and go up to the top of the property and do all that stuff. But I figured, oh, heck, it's going to come on pretty soon. Well, let's talk about your campaign, Daniel. You've obviously been running for California governor now for several months. And we know that there's...
Years.
Several years, but several months that I was aware of. But tell me what the latest is now and how much traction has the campaign been able to get?
A lot more traction, and I'm glad you asked that question. So some of the gubernatorial candidates from during the recall are actually in San Diego, are now jumping on my team. One of them actually works in AI, and we have established an ability to start hitting up all of the voter roll, as well as people who have been disenfranchised. There's an actual list that was created that I was able to dig up by the state as to the people who are registered, but they just don't vote anymore. And so I've been working with some of these former gubernatorial candidates during the recall who've reached out and said, we want to be on your team. So that's really great. I also have two events coming up also to go down to San Diego. I have another 2 events coming up for Butte County, where there is a number of patriot groups that are on board with me now wanting to do door knocking and ask that I come up to Butte County and speak to some of the groups out there so they can at least meet me personally, but they're definitely on board. And there's another group, I guess they're called the Mother Lode of all the other patriot groups that are outside of the GOP that have made their decision to get behind my candidacy, and they're going to start doing caravanning. So we're just preparing the flags that they want to put up onto their cars next to the Trump signs and the MAGA signs. And so it's been really great. And lastly, there's a new group that has exploded, really up to a little over 1,000 supporters right now on X. And they're called Make Cali Great Again X Space. And these are people all over the state of California that have really started to jump on my team now that want to get my name out there even more in a digital manner. So, and so much so, they're not to be confused with Make California Great Again. That's another trademark group. This is Make Cali Great Again. So, interesting that God's working in just a tremendous amount of ways. And each of these groups have been bringing more interviews, more radio show hosts, more independents. Even people who have blatantly told me that they are, in support of potentially another candidate, they are interested in talking to me a little bit more now because now they're on the fence. And for me, that's a blessing to have. And it's a blessing to know that minds are expanding and people are really doing their homework. And that's really the most that I think any candidate can hope for.
Yeah. Well, obviously, since the last time we spoke, Sheriff Chad Bianco, of course, had already jumped into the race. And then just a few weeks later, Steve Hilton, a former Fox show host, jumped in the race as well. Could you, for our listeners, Daniel, you got something beeping on your side there, Daniel?
Do I have something beeping? Or
yeah, I could have swore I just heard something beep there. But maybe are you a robot, Daniel?
I am not a robot.
That's good. All right, good. Hey, so we've got Chad Bianco. We've got Steve Hilton, Republicans. You're a Republican. But would you differentiate yourself from those two mainstream candidates, if you would, Daniel?
Yes. I consider myself more so to be a constitutionalist, freedom fighter, American. I don't really care for the party system. Unfortunately, when you register to vote or when you want to run for candidacy, you have to choose a party in order for you to have some sort of platform to get on so that you can actually speak to an audience and get your message out there. But I don't sit here and I don't try to play the game. I try to speak to everybody, whether you're Democrat, Independent, Green Party, Blue Party, Purple Party, White Party. There's like over 125 parties. I consider myself to be a constitutionalist, somebody who is America first and California first. I'm not interested in the party. It's a great platform to have, and there's a lot of conservatives within the party, but there are also a lot of conservatives and a lot of people who are just tired of the rhetoric, and they don't necessarily care to unregister and then re-register. They just are looking for a candidate that they can resonate with and somebody that's willing to hear not just their reaches and grievances, but have a solution and a plan that understand what it means to get back to common sense and more so the Constitution. Because we get a lot of people who, these candidates want to talk about, these great plans and stuff, but a lot of it doesn't align with the Constitution. A lot of it doesn't align with our biblical values, which really, that is the Constitution. Most people don't understand that our forefathers were in tune with Jesus. In fact, so much so they were genius when they wrote the Declaration of Independence when they mentioned God 4 times. The laws of nature, nature's God, the creator, the judge of the world, and of course, divine providence. And when you look at who's the judge of the world, well, if you read Acts 17:30, it says that God appoints Jesus to be the judge of the world. There's no other religion that uses the judge of the world except for Jesus. And so I think we have removed God out of our lives, that voters are looking for somebody who's willing to put the God back into our lives and ensure that government is sound mind doctrine with what our forefathers had outlined for us. And that's exactly what separates me from all the other candidates.
Well, obviously, and by the way, if you're just joining in here on Politics in the Pulpit, we're talking to Republican gubernatorial candidate for California, Daniel Mercuri. There are a lot more registered Democrats and registered independents, or rather not any party at all, no party affiliation in California, than Republicans. And obviously, we're aware that any Republican is going to have to win more than just the Republican base. How are you going to kind of break through that Republican base, if you will, into the Democrats, what I would consider the Democrats that are not affected by the woke ideology out there, and I know there's a few of them out there, and the independents who are technically conservative, but yet they're just, they're sickened by the Republican Party in general. How are you going to break through to them, Daniel?
Well, that's the first thing that we've been actually working on with my team is sending out our mass emails and trying to contact the areas that my team, I have specifically worked on over the last year as to where these missing votes are at. Who are these independents? Who are these individuals who haven't been voting and been disenfranchised? And we've been reaching out to the Democrat side. So there are a lot of Democrat groups, just like there are patriot conservative groups. There's a lot of Democrat groups that are actually reaching out to both sides. They're not just listening to the DNC. They're looking for other candidates irrelevant of their party. And so we have been heavily involved. In fact, Karen is just super busy in trying to keep up with all the people coming in and calling and asking for an interview or being a part of another group or a debate or forum of some kind. So that is something that I have put together almost a year ago. But now we've got an ability to finally implement that so that we can actually contact them and we can actually get in front of them. So it's really, I have no problem. I guess this is the whole reason why the Lord Jesus named me Daniel. Right? I'm not afraid to go into the lion's den. And this is exactly what I think every candidate needs to do, but they're not doing. They're preaching to the choir. That's easy. It's not easy to stand in front of a room filled with Democrats or independents and people who just loathe politics altogether, but they're willing to participate. And so that's what I've been really kind of focusing on these last couple of weeks.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but obviously June is Pride Month, and in years past it has been basically in our face, right? But it does seem to be a little more tame this year. I was wondering what your thoughts were about this Pride Month in 2025 and whether or not it is as tame as I think it is, or do you think it's about the same as it always has been?
No, it's definitely less this month. I do definitely see some of the businesses, Target, Walmart, definitely have toned down their Pride section. I actually haven't seen it in some of the local stores that I've gone to where usually it's, blatantly right in the second you walk in the door, it's in your face. I do know, of course, the agenda here in California, our legislative body just passed a bunch of LGBT, agenda that would do nothing more than separate and put a wedge between children and their parents. But then again, that's a Marxist tactic. A lot of people don't realize that, Karl Marx really supported and pushed heavily the abolition of family. And what a better way to separate and indoctrinate children than through the LGBTQ plus community's agenda in putting a wedge and creating legislation that would separate that. And Pride Month has been sort of the key factor, or at least June, where it's in your face. And really, it's a hijacking of the rainbow. We know that the rainbow was a covenant made between, man and God, that he wasn't going to flood the earth again. And yet it's been hijacked by this group, this living a lavicious lifestyle, thinking that it's okay to promote this to children. And I think people are tired of this. A lot of parents have really been fighting back. And I think, the communities locally are experiencing this, and businesses are getting tired of their profit margin dropping because people aren't supporting it.
Yeah. When it comes to abortion, Daniel, obviously as a Christian, I would like to see the complete abolition of abortion, but I take an incrementalist position. That is, if I can get a heartbeat bill, passed, then I'll take that. And as opposed to waiting for an abolitionist bill that might be 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And in the meantime, millions and millions of more babies are killed. What is your approach, Daniel, to the whole abortion issue, and how would you bring that mindset should you win governor here in California?
Well, that's a beautiful question, because one of the most important things that people don't realize is when Roe v. Wade was actually overturned, it was predominantly stated that there is no actual right to an abortion, because that signifies murder, death. And so it was actually a hint by the Supreme Court to let the states know this is really something that's not enshrined in the Constitution of the United States. What is enshrined? The right to life, right? So when we read in the Declaration of Independence, it says that we have been endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among them is the right to life. So now we know that life is meant to be cherished, life is meant to be fought for, and it's actually constitutional. So when we look about an abortion in all laws that support it are actually an abrogation to the right to life. It's also an abrogation in the state constitution when it says that, again, that we have the right to life as well. So again, it mirrors this. But then you have an objection within itself in the state constitution where they turned us into a state abortion, an abortion state. Well, that, again, is illegal. It's egregious, and it's something that the governor can remove out of our laws, because again, it's not harmonious, it's not an agreement, and it's something that nobody has actually ever done before, because, well, we've never been here before. We've never had such egregious laws. We've never had such behavior towards life. Instead, we're starting to celebrate death instead of what our forefathers listed out for us. So this is something that's...
What about Prop 1, Daniel, that was passed a couple of years ago by the constituents here in California, basically enshrining abortion in the California state constitution? How would you root that out?
Yeah, so that's something that the governor can easily do by making a public notification. So when you look at Marbury versus Madison, that all laws must harmonize, that doesn't harmonize with Article 1, Section 1 of the California State Constitution, nor does it harmonize with the Constitution of the United States, and it doesn't harmonize with the Declaration of Independence, again, because it's enshrined the right to life. But the right to an abortion is not, nor does it fall into privacy, because life in the womb has rights. And how do you know that? Is because when XXXY chromosomes, which falls under the laws of nature and of nature's God, written in the Declaration of Independence, means DNA combined with new DNA creates a new life, right? New DNA means new life. Therefore, no law can create to prevent the laws of nature and of nature's God. That's why our forefathers put that in there, because it harmonizes with God's law. And this is why I wrote what I said earlier today, that it harmonizes with biblical principles, which nobody wants to address because, well, they're just afraid that are the two things that you talk about, right? We talk about politics and we talk about religion. Those are the two things that that egregious government doesn't want you to talk about. And that's exactly what I'm going to bring to the forefront, and I'm going to eliminate that out of the state constitution because it's not an agreement. I don't need to sit there and negotiate with the legislative body. It's null and void.
Daniel, are you able to stay on for the next bit here on the show?
Absolutely.
Okay. When we come back here on Politics in the Pulpit, we'll continue our conversation with Daniel Mercuri, who's running for governor of the state of California, and we'll also talk to him a little bit about some of the positions that he holds to and how he will try to change Sacramento should he win, when we return here on your hometown station. All right, we're back here for our final segment on Politics in the Pulpit. This is your holy host, the Bishop of Santa Clarita. Again, Stars and Stripes concert, June 28th at 5 p.m. Again, it's a free event with the Santa Clarita Valley Concert Band. Encourage you to come on out, again, June 28th at 5 p.m. at the Freedom's Way Baptist Church. Check us out online at freedomswaybaptistchurch.org. That's Freedoms with an S. All right, we're back with Daniel Mercuri, who, of course, is running for governor of the state of California. This is a state of approximately 40 million people, Daniel, and you live here in Southern California, as I do. How are you able to take your campaign and address as many people as you possibly can up and down this very large state?
Well, I mean, again, it comes down to utilizing social media. It comes down to running ads in local in the local papers in different regions of the state. It also requires me to have independent door knockers from different counties and sections that I'm trying to target. So it's a huge strategy. It's not an easy one, and it's definitely a huge undertaking. Again, it's a very slow burn because now things are kind of picking up hot and heavy. And there are a lot of people starting to jump on the bandwagon. Caravanning is another one that a group wants to do for me, which is going to really knock out a huge amount of areas of the state for me, which is a blessing to have. So, again, I think it's just a matter of utilizing what's at my fingertips and maximizing it. And I think that, can I physically get to all 58 counties? I can, but can I get to all 483 cities? No, I can't. So the best way is to try to pinpoint the areas that I know that I could probably get to quicker, and then areas that I know I have team members and people that are strategizing for me to hit those areas that I'm not able to hit, so at least physically.
Years ago, the culture wars used to be something that the Republican Party did not hit head on, and I really believe that under President Trump, we are beginning to turn the tide on a lot of these culture war issues that used to be an albatross around our neck and were an advantage for our Democratic counterparts, but now I'm seeing the inverse. But here in California, there seems to be this tenacious hold on some of the culture wars and some of the woke culture wars in particular. And one issue here in California that seems like Gavin Newsom doesn't want to, well, on the one hand, he'll speak against it, but then he'll do the exact opposite, and that's with our trans issues here in California, where biological men are allowed to play sports against biological women and then, of course, win everything against biological girls, and, of course, also allowing biological boys to change with biological girls in locker rooms. Should you win, Daniel, how would you change that culture in Sacramento? Because it is insidious, it is pernicious, I would say satanic. But how would you address that? How would you try to change the cultural thinking on that?
Well, one of the first things that you have to do is you have to address the egregious legislation that has perpetuated that mentality, which is it's a deep mental psychosis that is unfortunately unhealthy for anybody who is still in pubescent phase, right? So we have a lot of kids who are hitting puberty and they're still trying to figure out their own hormones and thinking in one day that they want to be a girl, but we're placating into a mental illusion and supporting this mental delusion that's actually very unhealthy. So under my administration, we're going to get rid of all the laws that abrogate the laws of nature, right? Again, you have to go back to the Declaration of Independence. It's used as an interpretive with the court because they want to make sure that everything is harmonious, it's in agreement, and you cannot disrupt linguistical canons, which is why we had this whole proliferation of changing, the words of what, somebody wants to be identified as a particular pronoun, right? So it doesn't work like that, and it disrupts linguistical canons. And when you do that, well, then you're changing the language to change perception so that you can pass repugnant legislation. So under my administration, we are going to strike from all the books that which is not going to be executed. So again, the legislative body and the judicial need the executive to follow suit. I'm not going to follow suit with anything that is an abrogation or an abridgment to the laws of nature. So when we look at Title IX, again, it's a chromosomal, biological, anatomically, that person does not belong in that sport, and it diminishes the ability for women and girls to have a future in athletics. So we're not going to allow for that. Again, it's striking it from the book, and any organization that perpetuates that is going to be shut down. The governor has every authority to shut down, organizations like the CIF if they're going to continue to perpetuate, because it actually does more harm than good for the girls of those sports. And it does more harm than good to the individual who thinks that when they wake up one day, even though chromosomally they are a male, they think in their mind that they are female. And this is egregious. We're placating that. We're forcing everybody else to live a lie. And so, again, this is illegal. There's no reason and there's no right to force people to go down this path. And there are other remedies, too, that we can also help organizations while this struggle goes on, if it continues to perpetuate, that people can also enter into a private membership association as an organization, which means then it's their rules. Just like Costco is a PMA. They can tell people how to dress if you want to be a member of them, because that's their rules, that's their policy, and they're not necessarily open to the public. You have to join them. So this is what we can also do to kind of push back, while at the same time we're dealing with this mental psychosis that's been proliferated throughout the state.
Let's switch real quickly here to some more national news. Since Donald Trump became president, I had mentioned at the top of the hour here on my show that Republican President Donald Trump has done something that no Republican president has been able to do, at least in my lifetime, and that is to basically break up the Democratic Party, or at least the Democratic Party has succeeded in breaking up itself. They are in disarray. They don't really have a leader. They are rudderless, and they are basically grasping for straws. What are your thoughts of the media now basically saying, we were fooled by the Biden administration. We didn't really know the guy was mentally incompetent. And now Jake Tapper has got a book out. I just mentioned that Karine Jean-Pierre, the former White House spokesperson, has got a book out claiming now she's independent, not a Democrat anymore. So what are your thoughts about the Trump administration, or at least Trump, just breaking the Democrats, something that we as Republicans have been wanting for years, but Trump is the only one that's been able to do it?
No, I'm in 100% support of that. I think what he's done is exactly what we've all already seen. He's just brought it to the forefront in such a way that there's no denying the fact that the left is completely in disarray. They are filled with nothing but gaslighting and platitudes and lies, and it does nothing but destroy our economy. They destroyed the American way of life. We were this huge beacon of hope, for a lot of nations, and now we've become this huge laughingstock. But now the tides have turned again, and I always thank God for President Trump and men like him and willing to stand up, to, the lies and the deceit that have been going on that we can easily see, and including the Democrats. I think a lot of the baby boomer Democrats that are still around are more of the mindset of the Kennedy generation than they are of what's currently going on. And they're hoping to get back to that, or at least have somebody like that that's going to enter into the arena. But I think they can tell quite easily, too, that that is not the case. And really, if anything, the two-party system has done nothing but destroy our country by separating us in such a way that it's an easier way to kind of control the masses when, maybe you can't control here in California 40 million votes, but you can definitely divide us up in multiple facets of multiple parties. And it's a strategy in order for you to sustain or maintain a lower amount of votes because, well, it's easier. It's easier to keep people divided than it is to build them together. And I think what Trump has done has really shown that you can really join people, you can build bridges, and you can own up to the lies. Now you just have to change your ways. And I think some of these people are starting to do that. Whether they were contracted to do that, whether they were blackmailed to do that, a lot of the left are starting to just realize, I can't take this anymore. And this is a blessing. This is something that we need to continue to capitalize on, especially here in California, because I think if we don't get it right this time around, California is going to be lost. And I always pray that that's not the case, and I think we have a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to really turn the tides when it comes to this 2026 election.
Daniel, if folks want to help you in your campaign, if they want to donate, if they want to host an event, where would they go to find you, Daniel?
The best place that people can go right now is to danielforcalgovernor.com, and right up at the top corner of the right side of the page says donate. Every page has the donate button. And again, all things are very helpful, whether you can donate $5 or you can donate, a few $1,000s. Every little bit counts. It is expensive to get up and down the state. It is expensive to, get flyers out there and mail outs and so on. So any and every little bit goes a very long way. And if you want to reach out and you want to help me to, have an event in your area and you'd like to bring me out there, just go to the contact page and send me a message, and somebody from my team will get back to you and we'll set it up ASAP. So again, it's danielforcalgovernor.com. That's DANIEL for FOR Cal CAL governor.com.
And also, I'm in contact with one of your individuals to try to get you out here for a meet and greet, Daniel. So we're looking forward to being able to do that sometime, probably the end of July or early part of August. And so we'll let you know how that works out, as well as you guys here in our hometown family, that you guys can come out. So, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll have you back on intermittently to get an update on what's going on with the Mercuri campaign.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pastor Jerry, and thank you to your audience.
My blessings to your family. All right, well, listen, thank you so much for tuning into Politics and the Pulpit. Next week, we're going to do our best to have another wonderful guest that hopefully you'll enjoy. Steve Hilton's campaign is supposed to call in, so we'll see if we're going to be able to connect with the Hilton campaign next week and get a quick update on what's going on with Steve Hilton. And also, we've got Eric Early calling in the next couple of weeks, either calling in or joining us live. We'll see what happens there. But we're always excited about Eric Early and his very clear vision for California. I only wish he would have won Senate a couple of years ago. That would have made a big impact, and Adam Schiff would not be our senator today. But, that is what it is. So, all right. Thanks for tuning in today to Politics in the Pulpit. This is your holy host saying thanks so much for listening in to your hometown station. We'll catch you the same time next week. You take care.